Dave here, how are you? Today I'm going to show you an easy way to hold a track or a guide rail against dogs in a perforated bench, whether it's my bench or my big bench over there that utilizes the hinge on the back to hold the rail up out of the way while you're moving your timber around. And it really isn't going to cost you anything. You're going to use things that you've already got. Stick with me and I'll show you how. Now I'm going to use two of these guide rail connectors to hold a fitting that we're going to make to lock onto these perfectly and make it easy to push them in. We're going to work with this piece here. I'll cut it off. And there we go. That's not bad. The plan is to hold this piece of plywood onto my guide rail right on the edge here so it doesn't interfere with the saw's movement. I'm going to undo these. And this one. Now you'll notice that the speed knobs that TSO supply for their GRS16 and their parallel guide systems have an knob that will screw straight in, which is lovely. Now I'm going to remove this section here like so, and now I'll be able to get a grip of my 6mm plywood here like so and lock that onto it. It's going to work really easily. I'm going to make one out of plywood and then I'm going to make another one with the CNC. So I'm going to take some measurements and write them down and we'll get stuck into it. Look. Let's say 16.14, and that'll do me. And we're going to do a little bit of a drawing here just so I'm working out what I'm doing. 16 and 16 here. Draw a line between there and there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. It's not going to be the same width as this because you've got this thickness here as well. Remember, if that's in there, and we're going to put that on top, there you go. Now I could have just put a couple of holes in there, put the bolts in and then scribed from underneath. But this is a little bit more kind of nice. Now half of 16 is 8, and that's what I'm going to measure across now. And 8 here. The pen's getting stuck in the grain of the plywood, but that's okay. It really doesn't need to be super accurate. There we go. That should be center of where I'm going, and it is. And go down there with a pen and mark it, like so. I've got a pretty good spot there, so I'm going to enhance those points. And I'm going to use a center punch, a little tap, and a little tap there. And we're going to drill a couple of 6mm holes there. I could do this in a drill press and be very neat, or I could just do it with a battery operated drill, which I have. Because these dogs are 20mm diameter, we need to make this opening between the side of the guide rail and this part here. I want to go from 21mm down to 19mm. So as I force this along and take up the slack, it's acting as a wedge, so it'll hold and make it very tight. It's going to pull back perfectly against there. Now, to do this, I'm going to flip it over now that it's locked, and I'm going to draw a line across the back. Now I can take it off the guide rail so. It's over there. And I've got the line perfectly where I've got to be. 19. Maybe 60 millimeters. And I'm going to come across 21 millimeters at that stage, so it's going to give me a 2 millimeter taper over 60 mil. Like so. Bring that across. And then, why not? Let's keep doing some drawing. It's going to work well if you make 2 of them, but I'm just going to make the 1 at the moment. This is waste. And I want some stiffness in this wedge here. So I'm going to come back, well, let's go to 50 millimeters overall. 2 inches for the old speak. 50, close enough to 2 inches. Like that. And we want it a little bit rounded there, so it's nice and friendly to touch. And we'll round this as well. And we'll put a bit of a round in here. When I cut this, I'm going to run the jigsaw outside just a little bit, and then I'm going to use a very nice sharp chisel, and I'm going to pare it until it's tuned in nicely. I'm going to use a 20 millimeter Forstner bit. This one here is 20 because it says it on the side of the shaft there. I'm going to use that to create a nice radius there. Notice I'm going to be inside just a little bit there. Done. Beautiful. Next thing to do now is to cut here, here, and there. So I'll cut this with the jigsaw. Done. There we go. It's not looking too bad at all. Not too bad. And down the side. Nothing like a sharp chisel. Beautiful. It's holding against there. It's not going anywhere. That's very, very nice. Now the other thing you can do is you can put it on the other side. Some people will say, well, you stuffed yourself up here with your stand here, David. Yeah, maybe, but look, I can do this. Pull that off, slide her in, back it off a little bit so I can go in. Put that there. Bring this back until it engages correctly. There it is. Now that works brilliantly here. There's no problem with that at all. That's just magic. The other one, when I put it in, will go against that end. So it's just a matter of slide it down and it's held in position. So it's going to work very well. Look, I'm going to make another one and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to use this as the template. There we go. All right, so now all I do is when I've got it in between there, I just pull like that and it's locked. Tighten them up. Tighten them up. And then every time I take it off and slide it back on, it's perfect. And what did it cost me? Nothing. Nothing. I already had the guide connectors. I already had those knobs. It's cost me nothing apart from maybe not even 1 square foot of 1/4 inch plywood. And it's going to do the job. Maybe it won't last a million years, but it's not going to take me long to knock up a couple more. And I can move this along to wherever I need because I want to utilize this. Back to there. Come back a little. That's looking good. Tighten that up. Tighten that up. Bring this one back to here. And tighten him up. Tighten him up. Take it off and put it back on. Just push it up to there. Down. And it's in position. And am I happy? I sure am. How nice is that? It allows me to take it off without anything sliding off. It's not going to go anywhere. Rest it down there while I put another piece of wood on the Stanton bench, and away I go. And it will work on my big docking station as well. This works just as well. I have the FESTOOL hinge at the back to hold the track. I could have also put the GRS 16PE there as well, which locks on, if you weren't aware, which will lock onto that hinge to hold everything perfect. I used to have a section of special T-track across the front here to have the receiver for the guide rail when it came down to hold it in position. But I found it was very uncomfortable. It was always getting in the way. So rather than do that, I have the dog here, and they go in beautifully. Tighten that up, and then I can slide this in here, down to the position, bring it back until it locks nicely, until it's pulling it against it. No movement there. Tighten those knobs up, and now because it's a wedge and this is traveling on an arc, that can happen, and it's held perfectly. That's up out of the way. Nothing is going to slide off. It's held there perfectly. When I lower this down, no movement. See that? Not a problem. Even when I'm cutting, it still works well. There you go. Thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring that little bell icon down there. It will let you know when I've released another video. See you next time. Bye. It's so easy. I love it.